Hey, what's up, guys? It is Wednesday, March 19th. We are continuing our March Madness preview here today. I did the South and West regions yesterday. You can go back to my YouTube page and click on the link there to get the breakdown and some best bets for those regions. Today, we're going to go over the East and the Midwest. We're going to go over those trends again that I talked about yesterday that are just very helpful. Little guidelines there. You don't need to take them like they're the Bible or anything like that, but just little guidelines that can help you in filling out your bracket and trying to find which teams to bet on and to pick to advance pretty far in this tournament. So just once again, a little bit about me. I'm Dan Watkins. I'm a sports anchor and reporter at WBZ News Radio in Boston. I've also hosted many different gambling shows and DFS shows throughout the years here as well. So just wanted to share with you some tips that I've learned throughout the years and some trends that I find to be helpful and a little information about each one of these teams. That I think is important when I fill out my bracket and hoping to help you guys out as well, and would also love to hear any of your thoughts on some of these teams too, because it's one of these things where it's just like you can't learn enough about some of these teams as you're filling out your bracket. So let's talk about those trends again here. So you can see on my screen, let me just pull this up. One of the important ones when you're trying to pick your national champion is that 96% of the national champions since 2001 had a top 21 rated KenPom offense, and 96% of the champs since '01 had a top 31 defense. So there's 8 teams in this tournament this year that qualify under both of these parameters. So Auburn, Florida, Duke, Houston, obviously the 4 number 1 seeds. Then we got a 2 seed in there with Tennessee. Wisconsin is a metric darling this year as well. Iowa State falls under this category, and so does Gonzaga, who a lot of people, including myself, think are underseeded as an 8 seed here. And we could potentially get Houston versus Gonzaga in the second round this weekend, which is going to be a lot of fun to watch. So that's an important one to look at. Another one that my buddy Wes Reynolds over at VSiN put together. So with the exception of UConn in 2014, that Shabazz Napier team and Kevin Ollie coaching, they're like the outlier to all these things. Dating back to 1997, with the exception of that Husky team, the eventual national champ had been top 25 in offensive efficiency and had a combined OE and DE, that's offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency, of 50 or less going into the tournament. So once again, we see those 4 number 1 seeds. No surprise there. Florida, Auburn, Duke, Houston's on there as well. Then we got Bama, who's a 2 seed, Texas Tech's a 3 seed. Gonzaga pops up on this list again. Arizona's here as a 4 seed. There's Wisconsin and Iowa State once again, Tennessee too. And then Clemson as well, who's a 5. Look out for the Tigers. We'll talk a little bit more about them in a few minutes. And then one other thing of note here that I found when I was filling out my bracket that I looked at, that this trend might get bucked this year, but you never know. Obviously, there's a lot of data here to back this up. KenPom tweeted this out a couple years ago, and Joe Pita at Magic Rat SF dug this up and tweeted it out again for this year, that 1 or 2 seeds that were not ranked in the preseason do not typically advance to the Final Four. In fact, they've never made the Final Four if they were not ranked in the preseason, and 2 teams fall under this trend this year. That's St. John's and Michigan State. We're trying to break this trend. They have the coaches to do it, in Tom Izzo and Rick Pitino, but history is not on their side. So let's start looking at some of these games and these teams as we head over to the East region today. We'll start with Duke here, and this is the million-dollar question heading into this tournament, right? Is Cooper Flagg healthy? Sprained his ankle, rolled his ankle in the ACC tournament. Did not look good, but according to John Shire, he has been practicing this week. I don't think they're going to need him to beat American or Mount St. Mary's on Friday, but maybe they just get him out there on the court running around to see how good that ankle is and how durable it is, because they will probably need him as they get a little further in this tournament, whether it's against Baylor or Mississippi State this weekend. But some other things to know about Duke. One is, if Flagg is healthy, nobody in this region stopping them. They are that good. They've been so dominant this year. They are the highest rated KenPom team this century. They're also the only team in both the top 5 of offensive and defensive efficiency this year. Now, they are this good. They are very good. I should rephrase that. They are a very good basketball team. Everybody knows that when you watch them. They have like 3 losses this year or something like that. But the question is are they truly that dominant, or was it just a really down year for the ACC, which I think only got 3 teams in the tournament this year? Duke, Clemson, North Carolina just advanced. I might be forgetting someone off the top of my head here, but you get the point. The ACC, Louisville, that's the other team. So 4 teams in the ACC. The ACC had a really down year this year, and Duke just absolutely cruised through it. They were just boat racing teams. So we'll find out just how dominant this Duke team is as we go throughout this tournament. I don't really have much to say about American or St. Mary's. They're going to get absolutely waxed on Friday night. Mississippi State and Baylor. So this game's a coin flip. The books think so. It's a 1 or 1.5 point line. The Bulldogs are favored here. They're in a bit of a free fall, though. That's Mississippi State. As we head into this tournament, they've lost 5 out of their last 7, and those 2 wins in their last 7 games were against LSU, who was just terrible this season. They were one of the bottom feeders in the otherwise dominant SEC. Baylor, on the other hand, they're a bit banged up, but I really do like their guard play, especially with Jeremy Roach, who's trying to help Baylor advance. He's gone on some deep runs with Duke over the years. Went to a Final Four, went to an Elite Eight. And it would also be a really fun angle too for the broadcast on Sunday, potentially, if Baylor advances to take on Duke. You got Roach, who spent 4 years with the Blue Devils, going against Duke. That would be really fun. He'll know how that team likes to play, how Shire likes to coach the game. So that would be an interesting angle if that is our round 2 matchup. We head down here a little bit more, and we got Oregon taking on Liberty in the first round. Oregon, under Dana Altman, their coach, has won a tournament game in 5 straight years coming into this tournament. The Ducks are solid. They're balanced offensively with 4 different guys averaging double-digit points, and they play good defense too. Liberty, on the other hand, they're back in the tournament for the first time since 2001. They take nearly half their shots from three-point range, so that's the kind of team that can definitely blow up some brackets early if they are hot. And they make a lot of them too. They ranked 5th in the nation in three-point percentage at 39% as a team this year. But if they go cold, they're terrible at offensive rebounding. So this game could get ugly if those shots are not falling for Liberty. Moving on, Arizona and Akron. This game's going to be up and down and a lot of fun to watch. Arizona, they're the Wildcats, and they're a wild card in this region. They're maybe the team here that could give Duke the toughest test. Arizona always has a good team, but for some reason, they just haven't been able to put it together in the tournament here for the past, 15, 20 years now, it feels like. They had an up and down year. They started off 4-5, then they won 13 of their next 14 games, and then they closed out the regular season losing 5 of 8. And then they turned it on in the Big 12 tournament, getting all the way to the championship game before they lost to Houston. I could definitely see the Wildcats going to the Sweet 16 this year and giving Duke all they can handle in that Sweet 16 matchup next week. But at the same time, wouldn't be surprised if they get upset by Akron on Friday with the way that the Zips can shoot the ball. Speaking of Akron, they play fast. They're 16th in the nation when it comes to tempo, according to Ken Palm. They go 10 deep in their rotation, and they can also come back from big deficits quick, which we just saw in the MAC championship game. I think they were down by 18 points to Miami on Sunday, and they came roaring back to end up winning that game outright in the second half, which was just awesome to watch as someone that was betting on them and laying points with them. To see them actually come back, win, and cover was a lot of fun. But at the same time, playing in the MAC, they haven't exactly played anybody all that tough. This next game here, BYU VCU. This is going to be interesting. VCU was the first double-digit seed in this tournament that I circled to potentially make a deep run. I think they're a little underseeded here as the A10 champs. The way that this team plays defense, they're going to give a lot of teams trouble. They would give a lot of teams trouble, I should put it that way here. They're going to give BYU everything they can handle in this game, which is also why the books are and the sports books are thinking that too. This line is down to 2.5. It is a possession game in the eyes of the odds makers. BYU's had a great year. As always, they can score. They rank 11th in offensive efficiency according to Ken Palm, but there's questions about this defense. And if this does get into a grinded out type of game, I'm not sure they can win this one. This is going to be a rock fight. I'm kind of leaning towards VCU. Moving on, Wisconsin, metric darling, as I talked about earlier, they're one of those teams that, according to those trends, that has a legit shot of winning the national championship and cutting down the nets this year. They, as I said, they fall. Hang on, let me just find where I am. They don't turn the ball over. The Badgers do not turn the ball over. They're really careful with the basketball. They're the best free throw shooting team in the country, and they're also healthy. So look out for Wisconsin. They could be going on a big time run here in this tournament. Montana, they've been fun to watch in the Big Sky. I just don't think they have the size to match up with Wisconsin. Their like tallest guy, I think, is like 6'7" or something like that. This game could get ugly on Thursday afternoon. And then we'll move down to this bottom little part here of this region. We got St. Mary's taking on Vanderbilt. I like this St. Mary's team a lot. The Gales, as always, they play great defense. I think they get a good draw with a Vanderbilt team that's been fading here. They've lost 3 in a row heading into this tournament. That's Vanderbilt, that is, and 8 of their last 12 as well. So the Commodores' stock going down. St. Mary's, good team. I do think they're going to be able to eke out a win here on Friday. And then finally, Alabama can blow this entire bracket, this entire thing up, just with the way they play on offense. We know they're going to score in bunches. They take a ton of three-pointers. They push the pace. They're the fast-paced team in the country. That's according to Ken Pom. And if they hit their shots, they can beat anyone. They can put up 100 on anybody if they want to. And always, Mark Sears is just a blast to watch. A great college basketball player. He can go nuclear in any of these games here. So if he goes on a nice little run, he can carry Alabama to at least the Elite Eight or even further. And they could give Duke some trouble too if they get that far. And then finally, Robert Morris, Bobby Moe, great story. They're a great three-point shooting team as well. So they could probably hang around with Alabama for a little bit. They have 4 different players shooting at least 40% from behind the arc. They also have won 10 straight games going into this tournament, so they're really hot right now. But at the same time, they haven't really played any of the big boys. They have just one quad one game this year, and that was against West Virginia, and the Mountaineers beat them by 28 points. So at the same time, this could also get ugly too. So a couple of best bets from my Rhythm model. I get all my college basketball plays from my Rhythm model. Rhythm is the place to go for data-driven props and picks. You can download the Rhythm app right now. Get your own picks for free today. Go check that out. I have 5 best bets here for the first round in this region. Let's start off with Montana plus 17.5. The model does love the Grizzlies here, even after I just kind of waxed poetic about how great Wisconsin is. Model says this line is just too big. I grabbed a 17.5 if that's still out there. The model says to take it. They have this game. The model has this game at 14.5, thinking that Montana can at least hang around here and keep this one semi-respectable. VCU on the money line, I'm doing it, plus 135. The model says that this line should actually be like within a point. So I'm just going to take VCU on the money line instead of grabbing the 2.5 there. Plus 135 is the best I could find. Bobby Moe plus 23.5. The model says this game should stay within 20 points here, just the way that Robert Morris can shoot the three. Those shots are falling. They'll be able to hang around with the Tide. And then 2 more. We're going to go Akron plus 15.5. As I mentioned, they can erase deficits quickly. I think they're going to hang around with Arizona. The model says this line should actually only be 10 points, so we're getting over 5 points of value there on the Zips. And finally, we're going to take Liberty plus 7.5 as well. The model has this game right around a 4-point spread, so about a full basket or a full possession rather of value there when it comes to Liberty and the Flames. So those are the 5 best bets I have for the East region. Let's move on to the Midwest now. Starting with Houston, right? I think Houston, when you look at this region, in this part of the bracket here in the Midwest, I think they got the toughest draw of any of the number 1 seeds. I mean, look at this. They might have to play Gonzaga in the second round. Clemson just went to the Elite 80 a year ago. That could be waiting for them in the Sweet 16. You got Purdue there, who just went to the national championship game. I know they lost a bunch from that team, but still, this is a tough region here for the Cougars. So, as always, though, on the other hand, Kelvin Sampson's team, they play great defense, so they're going to stay in every single game that they're in. They force a ton of turnovers. They can shoot the three ball well as well there, and they are definitely Final Four caliber. I just think this is a tough road here. Going to be really interesting to watch. When I was first filling out a bracket, I had Houston as the first number 1 seed going down, but we'll see how that plays out. Gonzaga, as I talked about earlier, I think they're underseeded. They're a metric darling. Ken Pom has them rated 9th in net rating. They're top 10 offensively. They're top 30 defensively. I think this team has been a little overlooked by this committee because they lost twice to St. Mary's in the regular season. But they might be figuring things out and peaking at the right time here. Mark Few has gotten his squad to the Sweet 16, by the way, in 9 straight years, looking to make it 10 straight Sweet 16 runs in a row for Mark Few and the Gonzaga Bulldogs there. They're going to have to get through Houston to do it, But this team, that's going to be a really interesting one to watch if those two teams match up in the second round. Georgia, meanwhile, has been really frustrating. They've been really annoying to bet on this year. What team is going to show up here in this game on Thursday afternoon? That's the big question, because is it going to be the team that beat Florida, Kentucky, won at Texas as well? They also beat St. John's this year, or is it going to be the one that lost 9 out of 11 games in the middle of SEC play and also lost to Oklahoma last week? Your guess is as good as mine of what Bulldog team is going to show up here in the first round. Moving on, I really like this Clemson team a lot. They have all the tools, to go on a deep run. They return a bunch of guys from the team that went to the Elite Eight last year. They shoot the three well. They play good defense. A lot of experience on this Clemson team. I think they're poised to go on a run. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Purdue, first a little bit about McNeese, Will Wade squad. They have only one loss since December 22nd. They returned 3 starters from last year's team that made the tournament. They forced turnovers well, but they have just one player taller than 6'6". And they also aren't great from the free throw line, shooting just 70% as a team, 70.7 to be exact. So that could definitely make for some trouble here in this game against Clemson. One of the very first bets of this tournament that I made for individual game standpoint was High Point plus 10.5. A lot of people are also on High Point here, as this line has come down to 8 points, I believe now. I got some great CLV there. They have an explosive offense. They're going to score in bunches. But the question is with them is, can they get stops here? And when it comes to playing Purdue, they'll go into that track meet type of game with you as well. The over could definitely be a solid look here in this game. But I'm always skeptical of Purdue in March. There we go. They lost 6 out of their last 9 games heading into the tournament. They got bounced from the Big Ten tournament. I know they just went to the finals last year, but Zach Edey's gone. They're going to have their hands full in this game. Absolutely. Moving on, Illinois taking on the winner of Texas and Xavier. Illinois, as always, they have a great offense. They're 15th in offensive efficiency according to KenPom. They're well-rounded too. They have some potential NBA talent on this roster. They've been really inconsistent though. I don't see a deep run for this team, and they could have their hands full with the winner of the play-in game as well. Moving on, Kentucky, no John Calipari, no problem. Kentucky dancing again, this time under Mark Pope. They're one of the 3 teams that knocked off Duke in the regular season. They play at a really fast pace. They might be a little bit too banged up, though. They lost 2 rotation players, and they also don't defend the paint really well either, so they could run into some trouble here in this tournament. Troy, meanwhile, they're dancing for the first time since 2017. They're solid defensively. They force turnovers. They're top 10 in opponent 2-point percentage as well, but they're kind of all over the place on offense. Troy, they rank 332nd in offensive turnover rate. That's not good. And also 339th in perimeter shooting. But for some reason, they're 5th in offensive rebounding. So they do give themselves second chances, which is always a good thing here. But a little bit, they are offensively challenged, let's put it that way, I think, for the most part. And that's not going to go well against the Kentucky team. Unless somehow they have like the ghost of Jack Golke, or Jack Golke himself is able to suit up for the Trojans here and terrorize Kentucky like he did a year ago. I think that's going to be a rough one there for Troy. For most of this season, guys, I was saying how I could not wait to bet and back UCLA in this tournament. But now that we're here, I kind of want to walk that back because I don't really know what to make of this UCLA team and Mick Cronin. They cannot win outside of the Western time zone. They have proven that time and time again this season. This game is in Kentucky, by the way, when they're going to get up against Utah State. They take on this Utah State team who I think is going to make for a very bad matchup for UCLA and Mick Cronin's squad. Speaking of Utah State, they can score with the best of them. They rank 17th in offensive efficiency according to KenPom. The defense, though, is a different story. They rank 149th. We know how slow UCLA wants to play their games, so I think this actually might benefit Utah State, and they might be able to advance here. And then finally, this last matchup, big question is, can we trust Rick Barnes? Can we trust Rick Barnes in the month of March? Yes, they went to at least the Elite Eight last year. Did they go to I can't even remember. But they did they won some games in the tournament a year ago. They just went to the SEC championship game too. Rick Barnes is, so they did not go to the Final Four because Rick Barnes is trying to get to his first Final Four since 2003. He's got the squad to do it. Don't get me wrong. 18th in offensive efficiency, 3rd in defensive efficiency. I think they're looking at an Elite Eight run at minimum here for the Vols. And Wofford, I just pray for them. This is going to be an ugly game on Thursday night. All right, so a couple of best bets for this region from my rhythm model. Just 2 of them was all I could find here. A lot of these lines are really tight here in this first round. But we're going to go High Point plus 10.5. I said I took that Sunday night. It's still at 8. The model still likes it at 8. The model has this as a 6-point spread between High Point and Purdue, so you're still getting some good value there. Not as good as you got with the opening number, but still some decent value. I don't know, maybe you wait and take this a live line if Purdue gets up a little, starts off hot and gets off to a little bit of a run here. But definitely keep an eye on that one. And then the other one I'm taking Utah State plus 5.5. The model has this as a 3-point game. Would not surprise me one bit if the Aggies pull off the outright upset. Because like I said, UCLA just does not win outside of the Western time zone this year, and this game is in Kentucky. So those are the best bets that I have for the first round. I think I just gave you like 7 or 8 of them. Now is time for my Final Four predictions. So this is what I've been doing. Let me just take a sip of water here. All right, Final Four predictions. These are the 4 teams that I think are going to advance to the Final Four, and I'm also going to give you my national championship pick. First bet I made, Duke to reach the Final Four. I played this at minus 120 on DraftKings. This was the first future I made in this tournament. The path is there for Duke. Cooper Flagg is healthy. Nobody in this region is going to be able to really keep it close with the Blue Devils. They are that good. They are going to make a run to the Final Four if they are healthy. So keep an eye on them. I have no problem laying the juice there as well with them at minus 120. So we're going Duke to make the Final Four in the East region. In the South, who I talked about yesterday, you can go back and get a little bit more analysis on that if you want, but I'm taking Michigan State at plus 500, 5-1 for Tom Izzo and the Spartans to make a run to the Final Four. I love the path for them. I think Auburn is fading. You got a potential Iowa State matchup. That team's all banged up. I love the path for Michigan State. And when it comes to March Madness and picking your bracket, it is just as much about the path as it is about the team and how good that team is and how dominant they are. I think things are going to fall and break the right way for Michigan State to make a legit run here and get to the Final Four, maybe even get to the national championship game. I think they become the first team to break that KenPom trend of a 2 seed that was preseason to get all the way to the Final Four. In the West, I'm taking Texas Tech, the 3 seed, at 6-1 on BetMGM. I think the Red Raiders, once again, I think they have a really nice path too. I think Florida is going to trip up somewhere, and it might even be against Texas Tech, but I love the way they play defense. I love the way they shoot the 3. This team has all the makings of a team that can go on a deep run in this tournament. And finally, I am taking Clemson at 15-1 to come out of the Midwest. Love this Tigers team. They are experienced. They return a bunch of guys from a team that went to the Elite Eight a year ago. They shoot the 3 well. They play great defense. They're good at free throws, all things that are very important in the month of March. So give me Clemson to make the Final Four. Once again, Duke, Michigan State, Texas Tech, and Clemson all get to the Final Four. And it's chalky, but for good reason. I'm going with Duke at plus 320 over Michigan State to win the national championship. If Cooper Flagg is healthy, I think he leads the Blue Devils to the Natty. It's going to be a chalky year. It's been a chalky year. I think the teams at the top of this league and of this tournament, of these brackets, are significantly better. Comments, tell your friends. We're going to be doing some more of these videos. We'll definitely do some more college basketball as this tournament rolls on. We'll do a little baseball, NFL draft, and some NBA, NHL playoffs too. And just whatever else I want to talk about or whatever you guys want to talk about. So thanks so much for watching, and talk to you later.